Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
你们好吗？
你好。
Howdy doody.
And Louisiana as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Ohio too. Alabama is the worst state in this fucking country. It can't go 5 days without being a fucking worldwide embarrassment. Holy shit. It can't. It can't. It can barely do 4. No, you don't understand. I go anywhere. I go to Starbucks and someone tried to convert me. Like, come on. It's fucking terrible. My college Republicans, as a little proxy because people now know where I go, but it's fine. They were like, abortions are like when you lynched black people because bruh moment. And they said that it was like the 16th Street church bombing, and now it's just a quarter of my college marched against them. They made it onto national news because they're fucking clowns.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's past 6 weeks, which is when most people don't even know they're pregnant yet. Right?
I believe in Louisiana, the latest one that I've read about, and which is like the one of the like major topics that we chose for with this thing. I've heard first heartbeat, which is I believe a week and a half or 2 weeks or something like that. So it's literally
It's not-
unnoticeable.
It's not even a heartbeat. It's literally like an electrical pulse.
Yeah, basically, which counts as a heartbeat, which basically counts as life begins at the heartbeat. So any electromagnetic activity from the fetus is now counted as a live human being. And the crazy thing about that is that they're literally doing it not to ban. Like, it's not about Alabama or Louisiana or Ohio, right? It was Ohio recently. It's literally to push this law to the Supreme Court, which is now majority conservative, right? To overturn, I forgot the name of this precedent that they've said about the abortion legalization in America.
Roe versus Wade.
Roe versus Wade. So basically, what they want to do with that is that they would show, hey, look, this thing contradicts this thing. Like, you should now choose. Like, you should like make a decision. And the thing is, the majority of those judges are conservatives, like freshly appointed by Trump's administration, by Trump. And now there is nothing stopping them from overturning Roe versus Wade and just like banning abortions federally, not locally in the fucking deep south of America, or just like rural crazy parts, on the federal level. That's insane.
Yeah,
It would allow abortion bans, wouldn't it? It wouldn't ban them on a federal level unless they did something really wacky.
What?
Oh. So you should just go and get a precautionary abortion every week.
Basically.
Okay.
It's pretty fucked. No, I was just gonna say it's pretty fucked because exceptions aren't really being made in cases of like rape and incest.
Yeah.
And that's an argument that's been kind of the crux of what I guess liberals are sort of using to fight it. Because there's the sentiment that abortions sort of happen on a whim in the more conservative communities within America, and they see it as being a problem of personal responsibility rather than, anything to do with economics. So the only way that you can really sort of levy an argument that they'll accept is in really severe cases like incest or rape or a case where the mother's life is in danger.
Yeah,
But
that's the
even
only exception in Alabama is when it's health-wise.
yeah, when it's health wise, they're making exceptions, but in cases of incest and rape, they're also not willing to budge on those categories of abortion either, which is really absurd. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
quite scary because obviously this is going to affect a lot of women that come from like economically deprived backgrounds, because we all know that those like fucking rich governors like they probably take their mistresses out of state to get abortions and like yeah, it kind of sucks. It sucks.
Um, yes.
That's fucked
Yes.
up. That's so fucked up.
I have seen I have seen a thing being cultivated online, like basically spread around on like basically in the like most of the like progressive Instagram and shit, like just like people who are very concerned with this thing on Instagram. I've seen this a lot. It's basically like an instruction of what should you do. How to safely get an abortion in a different state if you live in a state like, for example, in Alabama at that time, and it's literally with stuff like don't tell your name to anyone, don't disclose your don't show your ID to this particular person, because if they go ahead and disclose your information to the federal authorities, they will be like breaking the law of breaking the fucking medical secrets or so whatever medical. I forgot the correct name of it, but like
HIPAA.
Yes, this thing, and it will be basically breaking it. Therefore, if you do all of those steps and you don't tell your parents, any one of your friends, and you just like find an excuse to go out the state for a weekend or for a trip, this is the safe way to get an abortion in a different state. And I was like looking at it, it felt like an instructions on how to get, fucking invoice from Kremlin if you're a spy, in America
Yeah.
in the fucking Cold War. This is
Yeah.
how it sounded like. It's like,
Yeah.
this is the sort of instructions that the fucking KGB gave out to the fucking secret agents. It's not a
It's
thing that
really
normal people should be doing.
it's really messed up because this sort of situation puts like women in danger really severely. And
Mhm.
also it's also like gonna affect people who are poor more, because being able to go out of state and have an abortion, you have to pay for the abortion, you also have to pay to stay out of state. If you're somebody who's young and you're still living under your parents, not being able to tell them is also something that can be incredibly precarious as well. And like,
Yeah.
having an abortion alone is not an easy thing to do. I've been in that position before, and it's scary. And then imagining having to deal with the stress of having to run out of the state like a fugitive. And then also fucking have the threat of prosecution, possible prosecution hanging over you. That fucking shit sucks. That's horrible. Like, it's really scary that that's where, the culture has shifted, um, and that this sort of thing is happening in a place like America in this day and age. But it seems as if it's been a long time coming. The conservative sort of Christian wing has been pushing for these laws for years. And it seems,
Decades.
yeah, decades.
No, longer than that.
It's been quite it's been an issue that they've been pushing for a very long time.
Since Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly, yes. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, because Roe v. Wade was in 1973. And it's been going since then, basically.
If you were gonna like outright ban abortion on the federal level, that would require legislation as well as a Supreme Court ruling, right? Which I don't think that's going to happen imminently. I mean, it's just going to work its way up through the courts. You know, Trump's judges will overturn Roe versus Wade based on some specious ruling, and then folks are just going to have to set up networks to get people into other states, to have their necessary abortion. I mean, it's all going to happen mostly at the state level. I don't think
Yeah.
they'll do a federal thing.
Do you
It'll
think
be a
that
lot
that's
about,
really?
like...
Do you think
Oh,
that's
sorry.
really a possibility? Do you think that they'll actually be able to overturn Roe v. Wade? Do you think that that's like a possible future that we could be looking at?
It's always a chance, honestly.
It's something to prepare for. I mean, the whole reason that say Mitch McConnell holds off on appointing a Supreme Court justice until Trump wins is because this is the thing. They want to overturn Roe versus Wade and, probably a whole bunch of other stuff. But it's, I think it's more likely than not that it gets overturned with the current Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty dark.
And the more liberal ones are really old.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, what the fuck are we supposed to do? That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Exactly, right?
I
there's
think
no
that
nuance.
in terms of praxis, in terms of setting up networks in order to sort of ensure that women can safely obtain abortions outside of state power, I think that that's something that we definitely have an advantage on, like on the left, especially those of us who have involved in some form of direct action.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems as if the liberals are sort of pushing on a more legislative level, which is also important. But I think there's a bit of a lacking in terms of, on the ground sort of direct action when it comes to this issue, which is where I guess leftists can be more of use in that regard.
Yeah, helping them get them. It's more about them trying to talk about it than it is to help them get out of that state to go get it monetarily or travel-wise or anything like that.
Yeah.
Another thing I think is normalizing ideas like court packing in the next election cycle, because the thing to do if they overturn Roe versus Wade is immediately the next president needs to appoint 16 more Supreme Court justices who are all like 25 and just overturn that shit again.
Yeah, like we could see. Yeah, please.
The younger the judge they appoint, the more time that they have, essentially. And the reason they chose a somewhat younger guy is that reason.
Yeah, I could see that if we look at if we look into the evangelical Christian right in America, it's it's a completely different topic, and it's like there is so much there. Like if you want to look into it, if you want to find an interesting, history of a modern reactionary movement, look into how like the political evangelical Christians, started organizing and pushing their shit, because it's a completely different beast, and they're looking for the long game. They're playing the long game. They always the way they function. They would love to have, maybe the current task is not really to do anything grandiose on a federal level, but they're setting the stage for it, and they expect shit to go down, and they expect the majority of people to, or at least the strongest majority, political majority. It's like the evangelical Christians is not the majority in the country, but they are organized enough and they have enough
Money.
funding.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
resources, organizations, like from churches to big funds and shit like that, to affect so much. And like Badman Massive, a good friend of the show, he always loves this phrase. If there is an issue on the left, it's always an organizational issue, almost like 100% of the time, basically. And this is an organizational issue for us because we're not as well organized as them. And I don't think we can be, I don't think we can out-organize the evangelicals at this point.
Why not?
Oh,
Because
they
they
got
are...
a ton of money. They got a ton of people.
Yeah, they have
brainwashed into
money,
giving
but
them money.
in terms of just general, organization, in terms of assistance, I don't think that that's something that's really beyond us. I think it's very possible, especially considering how dire the situation is. We have to be focused on measures that we can take to circumvent this, or at least alleviate some of the struggle that people are going to be under because of it. Like I think that
I agree.
I agree with you that it's going to be that it's obviously more difficult because of the lack of funding and all of those things, but we do have manpower and bodies on the ground.
Yeah, they also have transcendental backing, I guess. Like,
well, yeah, they utilize the ideology very effectively. And the thing is,
yeah,
I agree that we should be doing this, and I'm not disagreeing with you on this one, right? What my point is that in the direct confrontations of two, organizations, there is no way any progressive force in America would be able to take on the evangelicals at this point.
Yeah.
It's literally a machine, political machine, by now, which is fun, which is like with fucking, churches all around it's basically a political machine with the fucking crucifix on top of it.
That raises the question: how can we organize ourselves around such a specific issue? And then the question after that is, once we have organized around this specific issue, how do we take it to different issues? I guess I'm asking two different questions there, obviously.
I think that if we look at the history of pro-abortion movements in Europe, and I would specifically point to Poland, Poland is the only country in Europe that has abortions, has a ban on abortions. Belarus, you can literally go and have an abortion, and the government will pay for it.
mm-hmm.
Because we don't have a national healthcare service. We have nationalized healthcare. All of it is owned by the government. All of it. There is parts of it that are privatized, but every single person has free at the point of access, healthcare, and abortions are included there. I believe even some stuff concerning trans issues and some aspects of transitioning are covered by this as well, which is really weird. I didn't expect my country to do that. But in Poland, no, literally a ban on abortions on a state level. And they try to overturn it. They are constantly fighting for it, right? And there is a very strong, movement there. And if you remember, maybe it was a year ago or so, there was so-called Black March. Do you remember that? Nobody remembers? So basically, it was an international solidarity movement in support of the women of Poland. And it was a particular day when the women in the city marched, and they were all dressed in black. And people around the world also were dressing in black in solidarity with the strife. And if you look up those marches online, the videos, like it's basically, imagine a street in an old European town, right? It was in Warsaw, and all of it is black, and they are shouting like "Give us our rights" or something like that in Polish. That is like not only it looks really scary, but it also looks very inspiring, because you see power of the people, and you could see that people were supporting that internationally. I believe that we must speak about those issues on an international level, because um, Poland is a small country. What happens in Poland doesn't really affect, Australia, but or even Belarus, But if you actually look at like America, America is a country that is, a culture shaper, is a shaper of many, political trends and social trends. And so it's a real. We must have an international solidarity movement to support, to build those organizations to help people get abortions, despite the fact that it's illegal. Because we already have been doing it with, fucking GoFundMe and healthcare. Like my Twitter feed is constantly filled, with people getting money for all sorts of stuff.
Definitely.
And the same thing should be done for abortions, 100%. Oh, by the way, Angie, could you please lower your volume of your computer, because I can hear feedback noise.
Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah, thank you.
I guess.
Okay.
In Japan, it's very interesting because abortion is more common than birth control.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Eugene raised.
Is there a reason for that?
Culture. Abortions were legal before birth control.
So it's like more likely that a woman will go and have an abortion than to. Oh, interesting.
I think 300,000 a year.
Interesting.
This is crazy.
Here in the UK, it's fairly easy. Well, in specifically in England anyway, it's fairly easy to get an abortion. It's covered by the NHS as well. But there is still a weird undertone of shaming. Like they still try to make it like you fucked up, and you're suffering because you fucked up. And there's a lot of prevented suffering that they could prevent easily by, I guess, not having a whole one-size-fits-all aspect to it. Because there's usually two options. There's the option to take the pill, or if it's a bit late term, then they'll actually do the procedure, which is more invasive. But there's a lot of pain that comes with it, and it's like days of pain and like days of suffering, and it doesn't need to be. But there's still that aspect that you should suffer because of your bad choices. That's kind of how it's sort of played out. It's not a happy thing, despite the fact that it's legal. It's not like a nurturing environment. It's not somewhere you go where it feels like a refuge. It feels like you fucked up and now the state is taking care of your mess. So there's still that kind of weird Victorian kind of undertone to it. So even in countries where it is legal, there isn't this sort of duty of care that's given towards women who, and it's difficult to discuss because, like, obviously, there's there are places where women don't have access at all. So I'm grateful to be in a place where I have access. I'm grateful to be in a place where I don't have to worry about the cost of it or anything like that. But it's still not perfect. Like there's still an element of shaming that comes along with it.
Do you think,
in my experience.
Do you think we'd get more success organizing with this issue if we had a more generalized approach in access to healthcare, with healthcare being an umbrella term for abortion and other such issues?
Yeah, I think so, and I think emphasis on the care part of it as well. I think that I would like it to be a more holistic focus, because it's not just a political issue, it's a visceral one for those of us who are capable of reproduction, carrying life in our wombs. That shit is a visceral fucking issue. And like I feel like you know, labeling it or kind of describing it as healthcare takes it out of the realm of pollution that it is in. I hate the term pro-life and pro-choice. I hate that that's kind of the Orwellian language that's kind of used, because being pro a woman's right to have an abortion doesn't mean you're pro-death, or it sets up this like weird false dichotomy.
Mhm.
And I think taking it out of the realm of this sort of language by making it about healthcare definitely helps to open the discourse up to the areas that it should be focusing on, I think. And care as well, like emphasis on care. Like, I want a world where women have not only have access to abortion, but have access to the sort of support that they need in order to go through that process. Because part of the awful thing, about the women who are in these states is that they aren't going to get that care because they have to then go through the grueling process of traveling somewhere to have it done very quickly. And, there's a lot of, it's not a good situation at all.
I think an aspect I've noticed too when there's an attempt at an international approach to abortion rights and healthcare is the vast differences between the US and the rest of the world in terms of healthcare. Do you think that's a roadblock in trying to get people organized? Like specific context is like in Australia we'll fight to the death to keep Medicare, whereas in the US people are organizing to have Medicare. And if we would, do you think that's creating some a bit of a disconnect between comrades of different countries?
I guess now that we've had that organizing.
Oh, DipDap, you've gone robotic.
Oh,
Everything's up.
I
can't hear anybody.
Oh dear. Apologies, everybody. I think it might be a problem on my end.
Hello?
Apologies, everyone. Let me just rejoin the call and see if that works. Just give us 1 second, everybody.
We've had like direct shit here. Well, because I work with anarchists in Birmingham a little bit. We've had some actual things happen.
Oh, it's happening again.
Fuck.
Oh dear.
Maybe it's the server on which the call is hosted.
Good.
You sound a bit better, DipDap. Give it another go. What were you saying?
Because I work with anarchists in Birmingham, because there's nothing else. There was like a small march at my college that was like 300 people, which is pretty big for Alabama against abortion. Against the bill, pro allowing it to happen, because Alabama's is the most restrictive that I'm aware of in the entire country now.
It's so dark.
Because we don't even have like a time period thing. It's literally just any stage banned unless woman's health is in dire danger, or if the fetus has a lethal anomaly. And any doctor that performs one can get up to 99 years in prison.
Lordy.
And the language of the bill is really bad because they refer to a fetus and an embryo both as, quote, an unborn child.
Is that why I saw that article, I think it's a joke article, where they were saying restaurants in Alabama will have to stop serving eggs on toast?
Unborn chickens on toast?
Yeah.
Unborn
Yeah.
chickens on toast. I know, yeah, legally.
It's pretty fucked up.
It's really fucked up, and you know what? You know what? And we could keep talking about it, and if we could bring up so many cases of other countries. For example, I remember there was this fucking spooky, like fake. It's like don't Angie again. It's a bit feedbacky. Could you please turn it a bit down on your side? So
Sure, I've turned it down to like the lowest possible.
oh, okay.
Is it your cat?
I think it's
No.
it's the microphone. I can hear myself a bit when I'm talking through you. So what I was talking about, I think it was Brazil, where the or like some other South chat maybe could correct me on this one, but South American country, and they recorded those high quality TV TV quality tutorial videos on how to produce a miscarriage. It's like you should cut parts of your basically how to correctly fall down the stairs to produce a miscarriage
Jesus.
because it's the only way you could have an abortion there. And it's like a woman smiling, like in fucking makeup tutorial videos, and showing you ways to do it, and with a smile on her face. And it was done in to promote the march for legalization of abortions, and
Jesus
a lot of
Christ.
women there, and I think that's a great point on which to fucking stop it, and finish with this fucking gruesome topic and move on, because I'm going to fucking annihilate everyone here. Like the very common internationally, a very common very common items to be carried by women on marches, pro abortion rights marches, are vacuum cleaners
Hangers.
and hangers. Yes, because those are the tools which are used by people to get abortions when they can't have access to medical care.
Yep.
And
And it's dangerous.
it's really fucking dangerous, and it's really gruesome. And this, you could see it's. I'm lost for words. I can't even say anything because it's fucked up. It's fucked up, and America is not moving in a way in a fucking in a civilized way. It's not moving to a better place with this. It's literally barbarism, but on a scale in which fucking barbarians in the medieval ages would be like, no, what the fuck are you doing? Like abortions are 100% cool, because
Why
in
are you
medieval ages
surprised
they
that
were
yeah.
cool.
Americans being? Why are you surprised that Americans are being barbaric?
Yeah,
Like,
we're
is that
fucking
really?
barbarians.
It's
Is
pretty
that
bad
really a
over
Yes,
surprise?
yes,
Alright,
I agree.
Why?
Yes.
Alright, guys,
Oh.
maybe that's a good point to move on to the next topic, unless anyone wants some last words on it.
I think we've said. Oh yeah, we've said I think enough. Or
yeah,
did
that's
that?
it. That's it. Yeah.
Abortion is good.
There
Be
it
Thank
like
is.
you.
my friend.
Thank you.
Be like my friend Katya. She's not just pro-choice. She's pro-abortion.
Yes.
So, the second topic we wanted to talk about tonight was the fairly recent KKK rally in, I believe it was Dayton, Ohio. The
Yeah.
KKK announced that they were going to march on a courthouse square, I believe. And the anti-fascist rally whipped up about 6. I saw reports from all the way from 500 to 600, even to 700 people in total coming out to oppose the KKK rally. Can any of you guys guess how many showed up in support of the KKK?
You said it was single digit. I
It's
think.
it's single digit.
There's like 9 guys, right?
Got it in one. 9 KKK people showed up. So the first thing I think to
That's-
note from this is that whatever tactics, whatever organizing we're doing appears to be working. Because a lot of movements around the world, in America, in Australia even, a lot of the finger quotes smarter ones seem to be starting to go underground. And what's notable from this tiny KKK rally is that they were all masked, trying to hide their identity as much as possible. The thing I want to ask though is how far do we chase them underground? We've started to push them. They were out in the open, and we've started to push them back into the shadows. Do we, with torches and swords in hand, dive deep into the shadows and squash every fascist bug we find, or do we just patrol the outside and keep hang on to what we've gained, if you will?
Oh, you got to chase them all the way back underground, like to the Earth's core, like shove them in the bottom of that super deep borehole that the Russians made in the Kola Peninsula or something, you know?
And then fucking fill it with concrete.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. That's a great attitude. I completely agree. You know what? There is actually a very interesting thing coming into it and thinking about this subject. Me and TK were we recorded the show and it's on the channel posted where we looked through the Charlottesville rally people and we looked at where are they now sort of way in sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's disbanded, this one's disbanded, this one's disbanded, this one's underground.
And this one, for some reason, is now, and this one, for some reason, is now is led by an African American fucking civil rights dude who's now a legal owner of the Nazi Party. What is happening?
So you know that 100 years ago or so, when they would put bells in caskets and shit. So if you woke up, you would be like, okay, we have that, but it's labeled "Ring when no longer a fuckwit." and then we'll let him out.
Yeah.
Chase him down into that, and then give him no longer a fuckwit bell.
Part of me feels like this cultural battle is kind of a little bit over in terms of fascists being pushed to the periphery. I think that they've lost a ton of cultural ground since Charlottesville, and that they're not really as big of a threat as they once were. That's kind of the conclusion that I've come to.
Yeah.
I think I have to agree with you there, because I see a lot of different groups. I know correlation is not causation, but I saw a lot of different groups and a lot of different people like Richard Spencer. I think I'm just repeating myself now. Who were gaining traction, who were gaining more people joining their movement, and then the Bitcoin price crashed, and now all of a sudden they've almost all but disappeared. I think that's
there's a weird connection between Nazis and Bitcoin. I completely agree.
Yeah, I see now that that's like a small one of the smaller dominoes that was the first to start the the domino fall, because I think a lot of the work done to stop these Nazis from and fascists and whatnot and white supremacists from being able to operate out in the open has been done by Antifa, especially with all of their online work. My question is if we are to go and delve deep into the shadows and squash every fascist bug we see, how much support do we give Antifa in their efforts to do that? Because they've been trying to do that.
But that's literally that's literally that, though. That's literally anti-fascism. That's what they do. That's what we should be doing as well. You know what?
But what are you saying, that Antifa is a liberal thing?
No. I think I worded that.
It's not.
Yeah,
I think
I worded that question wrong. Okay, so how much advertisement do we give to Antifa? How do we?
We should be in the Antifa, TK. We should be the Antifa.
But isn't Antifa already us?
It's literally us. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Most of the people who are in Antifa are actually leftists of some vein or another. I know that there are probably some liberals, but most liberals aren't really up for going and punching fascists in the streets. Isn't Antifa mostly made up of anarchists and maybe some
Yeah, I think that's the question. How do we convince the liberals and the centrists that the
We don't need to, TK.
We don't need
We
to.
don't need to do.
No,
we don't need to. Fuck them. Fuck the liberals. Fuck the centrists. We should realize one thing. It's not about the culture. Angie pointed out completely correctly. The culture war is completely lost by the Nazis. There is no winner in this one because it was just like basically their attempt at the throne. You could say they wanted to become relevant and they fucking failed, and tremendously. Does it stop Nazis? No, it doesn't. Because we still get mosque shootings, synagogue shootings, like in the Western world regularly. We'll still get fucking crazy Nazis inspired by other fucking crazy Nazis killing a bunch of people. It doesn't stop. Violence doesn't stop. Skinheads still fucking go around and smashing like each other's like heads, and then smashing like people who have a different color shade heads. It still will be happening. The thing is, there was one big thing that when we were researching for that show with TK, I found a very interesting documentary. It was basically a Vice coming back to the crying Nazi guy. Remember crying Nazi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the good dude with guns, and he was on Vice one day before fucking
Shooting
one
his
day
mouth
before
off,
the thing.
then he was like crying.
And that was like, I don't want to go to jail. So he's still around, and his commentary is on the alt-right nowadays. Like what it is extremely fucking insightful for us leftists. So what he basically said is that he has to be, he has to do podcasts because this is what we do. When your ideology is like really fucking on the fringes, you go online, and you stay fucking online. And he has a podcast, and he does his show, and he like tries to communicate with other alt-righters. The thing is, liberal platforms, or rather platforms that are owned by liberals and operated by liberals, right? Such as Twitter or Patreon, they don't really like the bad publicity that the Nazis give, And thanks to Antifa, and thanks to the work of many, many people who are supporting anti-fascist work, be it at exposing them or debunking their propaganda. There are a lot of people to thank for that. So, but thanks to all of that accumulated, research on the alt-right and the Nazis and exposure of them, there is literally zero, like, it's really bad to have them around for those people, for those platforms. Right. And they start to fucking throw them away. And like, for example, even fucking, do you know that I believe that Alex Jones is not allowed to have a PayPal account?
Oh.
He's not banned from just YouTube. He's banned from PayPal.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, a lot of the reactionary fucks who are fearmongers and Nazis are banned from everywhere. And you know what? That's the biggest fucking point, because that's what Crying Nazi said. I don't remember his name. I'll be referring to him exclusively as Crying Nazi. I don't care what his name is. He's a crying Nazi dude. He was crying and he's a Nazi. That's his fucking name. He will fucking die, and this will be like written on his fucking tombstone. So basically, he said that he wanted the Nazis to move to like cryptocurrency and dark web, and he said very important words: build connections and businesses. So what he meant by that is that he wants the Nazis to create organizations and structures with material backing. That's what the left is able to do freely now. That's why we have, for example, EML that like has a fucking Patreon account and is funded by people, It's completely funded by the ones who are watching, and it's a privilege that the Nazis were denied. The thing is that we must take away from this is understanding that anti-fascism is important as a tactic, is important as an organizational tactic, but the most important thing, it's a cultural thing, sure. The most important thing is not really bashing the fash as building up the left in all the ways. It's like you could have fash bashed to dust, but if you don't have a leftist, then what's the point?
Yeah, it's true. Yes. It's really true. I feel like there's a massive focus on the bashing of the fash, and
which is great. I completely support
it's great. It's a good thing. I fully support it 100%. But like you said, part of the reason why the fash arose in the first place is because of a lack of a strong left. And yeah, even if we do bash them into oblivion, if we allow the current status quo to continue as it is without actively challenging it, then we're kind of fucked. And and that's where my attention always is. It's always on capitalism, and like the as for the fact that many of them have been pushed off major platforms, we also shouldn't get too jubilant about that, because our position on these platforms is also precarious. Even though we may not be spreading hate and violence, our agenda is still very subversive to the status quo. So we have to also be careful and wary.
Do you think
in the end, more than theirs in some ways?
Yeah, 100% more than theirs.
Yeah,
they've already started to set up like alternative platforms. You know, I mean, the biggest weirdest one is of course Second Amendment payment processing, which is it's
what is it? Tell us more. I haven't heard about it.
It's fashy PayPal.
Oh my god. That's so
but
weird.
PayPal is already very fashy. But like, what the fuck?
These platforms are kind of contradicting themselves in that regard, because the reason that they get rid of these fascists is because obviously it's not a good look for business to have fascists, like you said.
Yeah.
But at the same time, their agenda isn't anti-fascism. Their agenda is to make sure that they have a squeaky clean, reputation.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why it's kind of annoying when leftists are jubilant whenever these fascists get thrown off of the major platforms. I mean, it's a good thing because it limits their reach, which is the reason why so many of them have gone underground and they're having a harder time organizing. But at the same time, these are massive corporations at the end of the day, and the decisions they make are never usually based on anything but trying to reinforce the status quo. So we also have to watch our backs, in my opinion.
They're not ethical or moral reasons, they're profit reasons.
Sure. And I must give a shout out to our good friends at Zero Books. Douglas Lane has a video which is called Should We Ban Alex Jones? In which he basically it talks about the exactly same thing, and he basically does the same. He goes to the same conclusion. Yes, it's a good thing that Alex Jones doesn't have a YouTube account. It's very bad that YouTube fucking bans people, and basically uses their capitalist privilege of monopolizing. It's how basically internet is a bunch of monopolies, and one ban from one thing can result in a career end. And it's really scary that they have all this power in their hands. And it shouldn't be there.
Do you guys think we've done enough through this cultural battle and on these platforms to build up the left? Or do you think we should be doing more?
There is no international left. We should be fucking building it, of course. That's all I have to say.
I don't think these platforms are really designed for creating solidarity, to be honest. I think that they create consumer demographics. And I think the online left is just like another demographic, a consumer demographic. I don't think it's like a real meaningful community. I think it has the potential to encourage people to, try praxis or get in touch with like local communities, or, try and reach out to one another in that regard. But these are like hyper-capitalist platforms that are kind of caught in the spectacle. So, yeah, I don't know how useful they are in anything other than spreading information and maybe making some connections here and there.
Yeah, someone I know in real life has done more than I have, because he's like running a whole fucking community garden.
Yeah.
I'm just some fuckwit on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
there is
here.
a role for everyone here.
Yeah.
There is a role for everyone in this. But yeah, we shouldn't think that YouTube is the proletariat that we should be liberating from the fucking forces of reaction. Like, no, our battle is on the streets, our battle is in the political realm, and we should keep this in mind. And there's nothing bad about posting videos. It's nothing bad about fucking making fucking custom-made, handmade, cruelty-free T-shirts in your little commune, and sell it, and like nothing bad about that. It's all good. The thing is, either you incorporate your struggle in the international struggle for solidarity and workers' rights and fucking emancipation of labor, or I said so many buzzwords at the same time. I have to fucking take a breather. Whoa. Or you just like relax and understand that what you're doing is good, but it's really just the thing that you're doing. Whatever.
It's just
There are
one
many
step.
communists. Yeah, there are many communists that don't do any communist shit, who like hold their beliefs and they just like chilling.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's one arm of I guess the wing of liberation. What we do is one tiny speck of it. It's like the digital equivalent of handing pamphlets out on the street. IMO. But like
we are video form trots.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Well, not me, but okay. Like but then the way the online lefts operates is as if we see this ground as like the only most important ground, and that's not to say it isn't. Like the internet is a territory that we definitely shouldn't surrender to reactionaries, and I think for the most part we're doing all right. We're doing pretty well. Like I think that the biggest problem is fighting the liberal consensus. I think that that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I think that that's the major leviathan that we're yet to slay, is really sort of challenging the liberal consensus on the left. That's going to be a lot harder than fascists, because it's easy to just be like, fascists are shit, because everybody knows that fascists are shit. But then telling people liberals are shit.
Power. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more hard because people are like, the liberals are the good guys.
Exactly. I want to bring up actually. It's sort of I can see how it could be related. It's not really about that originally, but it's very similar. Is MLK, what he said about moderates, and how he basically in his it's letters from the Birmingham prison. Shout out to DipDap. So to basically, I can't quote it directly, but he basically said is that a KKK dude, a Nazi dude, he fucking hates black people. He sees you and he doesn't see you as a fucking human, right? Like, and it's completely, the line is drawn. It's not like a line in the sand. It's a fucking wall, with fucking barbed wire. You can see it right there in front of you, right? You understand that these people are opposing you. While a moderate liberal, and like this liberal consensus is literally like, oh, no, we support you, we're with you, but we're not going to join you at all. But we'll pretend as if we are completely supporting you. And that's what liberalism and like liberal progressivism is all about. It's gay rights, yes, workers, hell yeah. But like praxis, actually doing shit, oh no unions, no socialism.
That's the thing.
No.
Liberal progressivism is largely tied to capitalism. Like, most liberals don't give a shit about capitalism. They don't care. They just they want things to operate as they are. They just want a few more diverse faces in power, and they want a couple more, fucking perks for their specific minority or whatever. But they don't give a shit about like actually challenging the system as it is, and they're gonna do everything to try and uphold the system as it is. Even recuperating things like identity politics is a way of them trying to reinforce the status quo by giving us the symbolic representation of progress while masking a really shit system. And that's the kind of shit that leads to fascism, that opens the door to fascism. So I'm more fucking concerned about liberals than I am about anything else. The system of neoliberalism, not like individual liberals. Like, there's no point like bullying individual liberals or saying stuff like liberals get the bullet. It's more of a systemic thing than like an individual thing. IMO.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Brandon Renard in the chat. He says, the left is not built up. Is union membership down? Yes, it is. Worker identity has been smothered and it needs to be reignited. We need to make more city skyline socialism videos.
Yes.
And
that's
what were you going to say,
true
Eugene?
praxis right there.
Please, yes, do not get on it. But I must go back to what Angie said. Angie, I must say, like, Dankin on Libs is really fun. I enjoy coming to like to my you said individual liberals. There is nothing better than take your half-educated and fucking cultural theory liberal dude, who's like aware of the cultural theory, and calling him in his face a petit bourgeois swine. It's nothing like gets me rallied up more than that.
I mean,
Like,
whatever gets you off, Eugene. Whatever floats your boat.
Yes. This is a fucking kink safe space. We're not fucking shaming for kinks.
Well, kink shaming is actually my kink, so you're the kink shamer.
Fuck.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
fuck. How the tables have turned.
Okay.
there-
So a thing that's important, I think, is that like liberals care about tolerance. They don't care about acceptance. Like
Liberals are fucking boring and stupid, and we should bully them into not being fucking liberals anymore. Like that's what we should be doing. Is we should make it uncool to be a liberal and move those motherfuckers to the left.
You remember when the Kickstarter staff was trying to unionize, right? And the Kickstarter administration, obviously liberals, just tried to tell them, you guys are too privileged to unionize. This is for this is for actually underprivileged workers, not you guys.
not you labor aristocrats.
I did.
That's so disgusting.
I did actually want to
Like that
ask,
cynical.
Wait. What if actually the management of Kickstarter are actually third worldists?
Wow.
Jason Unruh owns.
Yes. That's why he's still around. Like, he fucking owns Kickstarter.
Bob Avakian owns Kickstarter.
So one
And
of
he funnels the money to fund fucking, guerrilla war in South Africa. Yes, that's basically what is happening.
Shouldn't we shout out somebody we got an email from?
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. I think basically that will be a good transition to the last topic. It was a small thing, right? Received an
So I
please.
just wanted to stay on this topic just a little bit longer because I wanted to ask, Do Not Eat. You've talked about unions before in your City Skylines videos, and we're talking about getting organized and fighting back against the fascists and whatnot. And I guess the thing that we've got to remember is that in our workplaces, very large workplaces, there could be fascists working side by side with us as on the production line or in the office.
Mm-hmm.
How could we use getting people unionized? How could we use that to fight back against the sleeper agent fascists that are working in our workspaces?
By educating people about how capitalism exploits them, and maybe that might rub off on the fascists, and then they'll stop being fascists. Or maybe that's kind of naive of me. I don't know.
Or they might become less fascist.
I just don't think they'd be able to operate effectively in a union environment,
Yeah, they quit because they get tired of all commies.
Yeah, exactly. Although, if you're in an environment like our current craft unions here in the United States, there's a fair few amount of not fascist people, but
neocons.
definitely a fuck you got mine sort of attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult, especially in if you're in a more traditional in a sort of craft union, AFL-CIO kind of bullshit thing where I don't know, you're in the trades and you're in one of the trades that makes a fair amount of money. There's a lot of pretty conservative people there. So I would just say unionize more industries and repeal Taft-Hartley.
Because I think in that metaphor when I was saying, we've got to go into the shadows and stomp every fashy bug that we see. The shadows isn't all that dark. It's actually our workplaces down the street. You go to a concert and you throw a rock and you'll probably find someone that says, "Yeah, I don't know about the Jews,"
You'll find at least a college Republican like what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
I could tell you the following. My opinion is very, there is a very good streamer that you all should follow, which is Vosh. He's basically Destiny but good, and leftist. And he said a very cool thing about what? He's a lib. He's just a fucking lib who hates. He basically debated a bunch of reactionaries recently throughout the month, and he has accumulated a giant audience of like leftists. And now he shits on them, says that workers are too stupid to own the means of production. He's awful. But Vosh is basically Destiny but good. Yeah. So
that's gross. I thought that Destiny was because I didn't know much about him. I thought he was a comrade.
He's not a comrade. He's a full-on capitalist who says he's in it for the money, and he breaks his own rules concerning, discussions and entertaining ideas and logic and facts when it comes down to any leftist argument for democratization of workplace or stuff like that. So he's awful at that. Awful, fucking terrible.
Destiny officially canceled.
Officially canceled.
You heard it here, folks.
Yes. Hell yeah! Thank you.
We should be trying to bread pill him.
He has a good friend, fucking Hassan Piker. He's in there doing his work. He's trying to fucking get him, to engage with this shit because he won't even fucking engage. But I wanted to speak about Vosh in particular. What he said about fascists. He said there is zero reason to debate fascists, but there is one, exception to the rule. Well, maybe two. One, if you really care about this person and they're like, you really don't want them to hold, awful beliefs. And but second of all, the main reason to debate them and engage them is if there is an audience you think you can win over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I hear some reactionary bullshit being spread around in my workplace, people like, we're an international company. I work in an international company. We have clientele around the world. And therefore, there is a bunch of awful, disgusting, stinky brown people, calling out on the phone all the time and trying to ask for some shit, And obviously, a good, well-meaning white will react to it appropriately with disgust, expressing it wildly all around. And as a cucked communist, I call it out when I can, when it's blatant, When for example, people start using anti-Semitic, shit, in front of other people, I would say, that's not really cool. And my task here is not really to fucking propagate. I'm not a propagandist at my work. I have a fucking job position and I do my job. And unfortunately, there is no way to literally brainwash every single fascist to stop being a wanker. They'll still be awful people. And the main fucking danger is not really individual fascists. It's fascist organization.
Mm-hmm.
If they start to organize, this is when we fucking Avengers assemble and fucking Thanos snap them out of the reality. This is Thanos snaps don't come and fucking, when you're at lunch and someone says something bad about, about Jews. It's when they start to fucking, join together in small piles and they pile on top of each other and start, saying the N-word together and they start to multiply, This is the problem when they become the swarm of Nazis. This is when you get out, and you deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we're at a place now in culture, fortunately enough, where the organizations are really suffering, which is a good thing. So I think that we can afford to shift a little bit more of our attention towards liberalism, and that's not to say I don't think we should completely abandon anti-fascism at all. It's incredibly important to ensure that we're doing that work on the ground. But I definitely think that a little bit more of our attention can be shifted towards the liberal paradigm.
This is the culture war that we're engaged in. Is the culture war against the liberal consensus, and we need to realize that and fucking fight this war.
Yeah, I agree. Even on left tube and our left and just leftist spaces online in general, there is a massive cultural war going on between liberal consensus and leftism right now. And I feel like a lot of leftists capitulate to the liberal paradigm because it's just easier. And also you're probably going to have a larger audience if you pander to the libs and you don't challenge them and you just kind of babysit them And I don't want to do that anymore. And I don't think anybody who considers themselves a leftist should be doing that. We should be doing more work to challenge the real fucking Leviathan / monster of liberalism.
Completely fucking agree with that.
I think
Yes.
that's a good last word to end on for that topic, unless anyone else wants to jump in.
A quote from the International Communist Party. It's like a thing from 1996. If workers join such anti-fascist organizations with the aim of duffing over fascists, we certainly don't wish to stand accused of stifling a healthy anger against the preposterous viciousness of unadulterated fascist ideology. We wish only to point out that the iron fist of fascism is concealed within the soft gloves of democracy all the time. Which is why the latter is almost as painful, the daily insecurity of working in capitalist society, whose job will be the next to go, the evictions, homelessness, overcrowding, necessity to pay bills. What a horrible Hobson's choice it is. We emphasized we are anti-fascists as well as we are against the capitalist fetish of democracy.
Perfect quote. Perfect quote.
Amazing.
Pretty good.
Perfect quote.
All right.
I just wanted to say that
Mhm.
when Eugene was talking about all the fascists piling on top of each other, I was imagining a sort of Katamari Damacy of fascism there.
That's what I was going for.
You need to
The big ball of racism.
Yeah, you gotta nip that in the bud.
Cool. All right. So just before we move on to the last topic, I just wanted to remind everyone that we now have a donation thingamabob. I'm just putting the link into the chat for everybody to see. You can donate to us and then have your name appear in the bottom left of the screen. I'll just do a little test donation, and there it is. Comrade John donated, like $24 to the cause. That is just a test one, but yeah, you can have your name appear on the stream by going to the link I dropped in the chat, and hopefully it'll be in the description as well. Other than it won't be live.
It is. I put it there. EML discovery. EML discovering fucking stream monetization like fucking 5 years late. We literally have so many live streams. More than 5 already. Yes, well, we're ahead of the curve on this one. We're like very old school. We have a thingy and it shows up and there's like a fucking hammer and sickle showing up. Cool.
We're so retro. We're gonna downgrade to ham radios.
Yes, basically, and you can send us money through shit.
Thank you, Brandon Bernard, for subscribing. Thank you. So the last.
There is one more thing before we go. I wanted to give a quick shout out to a comrade who's a long-time listener, who wrote us a very, very wholesome email, which I'm not going to quote directly. I think I will come up with a nice, response to you, which is Gigantas, a fellow Eastern European Baltic state person, a Lithuanian communist who wrote a very, very wholesome letter to us. It's so amazing. Like, Belarus is such a safe haven because, like, when you look north to the Baltic states, especially to like Estonia and shit, not Estonia is chill, like Latvia and parts of Lithuania, so many fucking Nazis everywhere. It's fucking insane. And I will basically quote particular parts of it. He says, also, my thanks extend to Eugene. As a Lithuanian communist, it warms my heart to see other Baltic and near-Baltic people not buy into nationalist capitalist bullshit and to determine themselves to contributing to the discourse. I really enjoy the fact that despite the long history of anti-communism, a long history of at times even legitimate anti-communism, like anti-Russian imperialism, basically de facto, of Eastern European countries, the ideas of emancipation, ideas of proletarian revolution are still around and are still alive, because you can't, you can't kill a man, you can't kill an ideology. Ooh, kill idea. Ooh, fucking V for Vendetta, throw knives and shit. Awful movie. Very nice comic book.
Don't diss my boy Alan Moore. Like
I love the fucking book. I've read it. I love Alan Moore, and I know that you love Alan Moore. I'm not going to touch Alan Moore. I won't say anything negative about Alan Moore. His beard is amazing, Angie. It's very
Yeah.
good.
Yes, it is. It is. It's the beard of a
Thank you.
wizard.
Exactly.
You
Because
couldn't even hope to grow a beard like that, Eugene. So like,
I know I'm
Yeah.
humbled by this beard, and I worship it every night. And like, yeah, but like, let's again remove. It's less about my kinks, more about communism and fucking Nazis and shit. Yeah, please, TK.
Okay, so the last
Take
little
it from
topic,
here.
the last little topic we're going to finish up on, just a bit of fun, is an article from CNN Politics. It says, Son Maid pulls baseball team sponsorship after a video portrays Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, as an enemy of freedom. In the video that was played, it goes for about 3 minutes. In the video that was played at the baseball field, I assume, it has Ronald Reagan's speech about enemies of the free world. And the succession of pictures was of, I believe, a member of Antifa in a mask, Kim Jong Un, then AOC, and then Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro, noted living person.
Oh my
Yes.
god, reality is just like beyond parody at this point. Like, I feel like we've stepped into some like insane like universe.
We are
where,
the
like,
mirror universe for all the Trek
Yeah.
fans out there. I think the
Oh my
question this
God.
raises is, one, why
What the
is...
fuck?
Yeah, what the
No,
fuck?
first
Why
question
is
is, what the fuck?
Why is it so... Why is the propaganda that comes from Republicans and people a little to the right so fucking bizarre? And two, why does it work on so many people?
Well, I mean, even liberal propaganda is also pretty fucking bizarre too. Like, I know that liberals are, I guess, the typical American like innocuous liberal person is a little bit more, I guess, socially closer to us. But like shit like the fucking Gillette ad, shit like the fucking, Pepsi ad, like that shit's just as absurd to me. I think that there's a lot of pathology within the liberal and right wing, and I think that these ads are their way of expressing their lack of understanding of the world or politics or how anything really works. Yeah.
I agree, and this, you know what? I live for AOC communist memes. I live for this shit. I adore when there is some fucking, reactionary motherfucker comes out and says, "Hey, AOC, Green New Deal, more like Holodomor deal. Hey, dab." And you're like, "What the fuck is happening?" Like,
She's like the most
so
innocuous
funny.
human being ever. Like she's very far from a radical.
Yes, she's barely, she's just a progressive. I won't even call her like a leftist,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I think it's just
I
like
don't
said
know.
that like what Americans call like leftists nowadays are like what was called like moderate sock dems in like the beginning of the EU.
Yes, yes.
The Overton window is so far to the right that we can't even. Although maybe if the Green New Deal did, in fact, I don't know, involve dekulakization or the liquidation of the landlords as a class, it might be better. I don't know, but like this is not a.
Do not eat malice.
This is this is not a. It's the Overton window is so far to the right here. I mean, like people can't even like. I don't know. Like people freak out if someone runs an extra bus one day next to your house. Like,
No. Zizek said that Maduro was a moderate sock dem. So that would mean that like what we call like Americans call leftists would be like literally like their version of a centrist.
Yeah, like
Yes.
specifically, Janoti and DipDap, you guys live in America. The narrative, for some reason, from like people like Turning Point USA, those kinds of people, the narrative from them is that it's the constant thing of when the government does stuff, it's socialism. The more government, the more socialist it is. why do they keep pushing that line when it's incredibly incorrect?
Because
it's their entire understanding. It's all
but
they
it's also
understand.
politically expedient for them to do so. Especially the ones in power. They're not stupid. They know exactly what the fuck they're doing by pushing that narrative. It's in order to muddy the waters and confuse people about what, socialism actually is, and make it sound like something scary and like authoritarian, which is the reason why they toe that line with that exploration of the issue, because it's politically expedient for them to do so.
It's easy.
I believe there is also this, very weird thing of this unique American experience of political development. Like, America wasn't started as like a nation, it basically started as a liberal, republic, as it's how it was established, and a slave owning one, and it had peculiar ways of managing, this, vast lands, and they expanded, and it made it, they created a state system which is very, very, unique in terms of like how, like, there is no, every single state has their own laws and their own governments, and the way that like Europe in particular, despite the fact that we are rather different, from each other, rather different. For example, Germany has a similar thing with America, with different lands having completely different character of the laws and stuff like that, to a certain extent.
Right.
But despite that, we sort of, we're rather okay with shit. We weren't as weird as Americans. America is just too weird. That's my, you won't hear any big, like, it's too late for me. It's too late in the stream. I've already exhausted my theoretical part of my brain. You won't hear any, like, fucking mind-blowing theory from me. My main thesis is America and Americans are very weird, And that's just outside perspective. You could correct me on that if you wish.
Americans are fucky.
Yeah.
No, it's true. We're fucky.
It's
I
a
bet.
very strange place.
Americans are crazy. I've lived in
America.
America before. Like, I spent like half of my early adolescence / teen, like, late teens in America, and there is a real American pathology, and that's not just being an asshole. And I know, because I know Americans tend, like, even the most quote unquote woke Americans, if you talk shit about America, they get like touchy about it. Like,
now I'm offended.
like,
my parents get really angry when I talk shit about anything American.
You gotta understand that America is shit. It's a fact. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah,
exactly.
McCarthyism
the greatest
never
country
left
on
America.
Earth. It's crazy.
I love that. I love this part of America. Actually, it's completely pathological. I love it, and that's why, like, yeah.
That's the thing about England, is that if you go to the average British person and you're like, oh, England's a shithole, or Britain's a shithole, they're just gonna be like, yeah, it's a shithole. Except for like some very like specific sects of society, most people aren't very patriotic. Whereas like when I went to America, it was the first sort of experience I had with that kind of overzealous patriotism. Like, as soon as you get out of the airport, there's like big ass American flag waving in the wind, and like people have American flags on like their front porches. And when I was in high school in America, they made us say the Pledge of Allegiance. And to Americans, it was like a normal thing. Like, people just got up and fucking said the Pledge of Allegiance. But to me, it felt fucking weird. And I was expected to say it, even though I wasn't like American. And if I sat down and refused to participate, I was somewhat socially like punished for that. It's weird. Americans are weird people, and Americans don't know that they're weird.
Most of them.
Yes.
So,
I have a question, Angie. So wait, when you pledge allegiance to the flag as a non-American, does it like mean that you like converted to a different religion? Does it work like baptism?
I don't fucking know. I just did it because I didn't want to be that like weird English. I was already that weird British kid, and yeah, I didn't want to make myself any weirder, so I just kind of played along with it. But I thought it was fucking weird.
The sky cloth of freedom.
Well, first of all, amazing phrase. Second of all, you know what, like, it still works. Like, for example, it doesn't matter whether, like, it's not about whether you consent to being an American, you know. It's like, it's basically, for example, when I was 3, right, my parents brought me to a church, and a bearded man threw some fucking water at me, and that made me, you know, and I was like, just like fucking around, you know, I was just around, I wasn't aware of it, and then I became a fucking, you know, Russian Orthodox. I'm baptized in Russian Orthodox. And I think it works the same way with Pledge of Allegiance. It's sort of like you're not American citizen, but you have to deal with the fact that you now live as an American.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fuck,
pretty much.
Angie. I'm sorry.
And it's not like it's not like it's like they'll force you or they'll take you to the principal's office or any stupid shit like that. It's more of a socially
It would be weird for you to not to do it. Yeah.
Do you guys think, because there's so much media coming in and out of America, and how, you know, fucking crazy the center left and center right are in America, do you think ground zero of the culture war is in America, or is it just an online thing?
I think it's more of an online thing. America's not as fucking important as it thinks it is, mate. Like, especially here.
We're fucking we're not an issue.
Especially here in the UK, like there's quite like that's the thing about the hegemonic, you know, power of like what countries are considered important or whatever. We're pretty close to second, and like we just don't give a shit. We see ourselves as very much our own thing. And even though America has a lot of cultural influence, in terms of like actual brick and mortar reality, it's kind of a bit of an illusion, in my opinion. I think I don't think America has as much power over that kind of stuff as it thinks it does. Or maybe I'm just being a fucking bitter English person.
No, I agree. Like, for example, as an Eastern European, right, I'm like looking at America from the online perspective. Sure, it's cultural dominance, it's hegemony. It's not even dominance, it's hegemony. Like, we have to, the reason why this show started at this particular time is because Americans could see it. Crazy, we have to do this, you know. Amazing, like, weird, and that's the thing, that's the game we're playing, and the culture is shaped around it as well. And you know, as a Belarusian, though, as a person who lives in Eastern Europe, I think, you know, a threat of Carpathian dragons would be more of a, you know, a thing for me than fucking, you know, Yanks doing the Yank thing. I'm more scared of the threat of potential dragon, an ancient dragon, like emerging from its slumber in Carpathian mountains and starting raiding villages around. This is the stuff that we have to deal with in Eastern Europe, you know.
So we got to have more of a internationalist online focus in this culture war against American fuckery.
Yes,
and you know, everyone just needs to say "fuck America," and then eventually.
I do. I'm waiting for the day. Where everyone collectively says "fuck America," so that we can all kind of, because that's the thing, is every single filter of consciousness is like filtered through the American experience. Like even the Black experience is filtered through the Black American experience. So people who aren't Black Americans kind of are walking around with this sort of false consciousness, filtering their experience through the American civil rights experience, even though we have our own sites of struggle in the places where we're at. But we tend to ignore them because everything's sort of hyper-focused on America. And that doesn't obviously just go for Black people, it goes for all kinds of different issues. I don't think America should always be the focal point of every single fucking discussion.
I think a part of, I have to agree with you there, because I think America has pushed a lot of their media so that a lot of people, including myself, view the world through an American lens. My brother did his thesis on how when you look at the war through, I think it was Latvia, they saw the Soviets, some of them saw the Soviets as an invading force, but when you look at
majority of them, most of them, still to this day.
But when you look at it through the Soviet lens, it becomes the great patriotic war against fascism to liberate, you know, Europe from Hitler. And then when you look at it through the American lens, it's America, we're coming in late to save the day. And I think an important tactic that we can use is to break this lens or break this American lens that everyone is looking at history through and media through as well.
I agree.
Beautiful.
It's definitely tough to identify if you're in the middle of it, as we are in America.
Yeah, I think that's where an internationalist approach helps really well.
Yeah.
Like to toot my own horn here, it's the EML presents an Evening with Comrades. You get online with people from Australia, from America, from England, from the swamplands of Belarus, and you get that you get that different perspective, but that different left critique perspective as well.
Yeah, it's where does Americanism begin versus being an American?
Yeah, because like I'm not mad at French people for being, French and shit. Let French people be fucking French, and like French issues are issues, and we talk about them, sure. It's not that we fucking ignore French people because they fucking had Napoleon and shit, right? Like, fucking, Napoleon happened, so what? Then, Yellow West, it's fucking still happening, by the way, still going on. Fucking hell, Yellow West still a thing. Fucking hell. And like the same thing with Americans. You have like your own thing, stuff is happening. Important. Yes. From a material standpoint, important, because like America does a bunch of shit abroad. It's important to talk about. The thing is not to perpetuate this idea that America is end on be all, and there is so much more and interesting stuff happening globally. And our culture is like American culture is not the thing, and American experience is not a thing that we should judge other experiences with.
Right.
If it comes to black experience, as Angie said, if it comes to leftist movement and how they function in society, when it comes to abortion movements, like literally, we're all so scared of the Alabama thing. I'm not going to go, oh, there are so many people that are worse than that. Yes, there are a lot of people that there are a lot of other nations who have it worse, but their struggle is still as legitimate as the struggle in America. And only by joining those struggles is by forces of solidarity. Captain Planet, solidarity. We can overcome and defeat our foes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's might be a good point to end on, unless anybody else wants to jump in real quick.
Maybe some final words from people.
Yeah. Any last final words before we jump off, everyone?
Anything you have in the works, stuff like that.
I might be uploading one of my essays eventually from one of my classes on how the West does not exist.
Interesting.
That goes back to like fucking Alexander the Great times, because even the Bible mentions people from China being the Latin word for China.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
That might come out at some point if I can polish it well enough.
Everyone be sure to subscribe to... Are you releasing it through your own YouTube or through EML?
Don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah,
follow DipDap on Twitter and on Instagram. Hammer and Hose, right? Or whatever. What was your Instagram?
hammers.n.hose. It's because of a book I read about Alabama communists and how you fucking need to read it.
Yes.
Do not eat. Do you want to? Where can we follow you on Twitter and whatnot?
Oh, I'm. Hold on, I gotta check which letters are at the end, numbers are at the end of my name. I'm Do Not Eat 1 on Twitter, and then on the YouTube I'm Do Not Eat 01. I've got Public Housing Part 2 coming out soon.
Oh, brilliant!
That's gonna be fun. Yeah, we get to go through all kinds of just incredibly convoluted policies like the low-income housing tax credit and the Hope 6 program that replaces public housing with expensive private housing, which is one of our policies in America that's running full speed ahead. And also exciting stuff about how Taft-Hartley and then later another act, I forget the name, what it was offhand, prevented unions from using their pension funds for any kind of socially useful purpose, including social housing, which they had previously been using their very large pension funds for. So it's going to be, it's a big sprawling mess. It's going to be fun.
Very good. So yeah, everyone, don't forget to subscribe
Angie?
to Do Not Eat
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Angie.
Angie.
Do you have any plugs for yourself?
I have a new video up on my channel about capitalist recuperation and spirituality set in the world of Twin Peaks. So that's a fun little psychedelic ride. So check that out. And yeah, I'm just chilling and working on videos at the moment. So yeah, that's just me.
And the thing I'm reading soon, the Labor in Irish History for an episode. But I'll be reading
we're
some
doing
bits
some
and
stuff.
pieces.
Yeah.
Very good.
We're doing some stuff on email. We're launching a new format. It's still in the works. So we have some new shit coming out. Theory filled and hopefully quality filled. We'll see. We'll see about that. But yeah, expect some more shit from email coming soon. It's in the works.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to emlEugene, Do Not Eat, DipDap, Angie Speaks for coming on. Everybody, and for everybody joining us in the chat as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and to us. To stay
Get us
up to date
to
with
1,000
everything.
subs.
Yes.
Yeah, we're almost 1,000 subs.
We're almost
push.
at 1,000
Let's fucking
subs.
push.
Push that subscribe button, my dudes. And also let us know about the new time that we're going out, if it works, if you need it to be an hour later. And you can let us know on Twitter, because on Twitter, Eugene is at emlEugene, and I am at emlTKJones. Don't forget to join us on the Discord as well. And thank you, and good night, good morning, wherever you are.
Good afternoon, whatever.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.